After the regent lost his memory, he forgot about his affair with the young emperor. He plotted a rebellion but was stopped, like the emperor. Impossible. I'm not a homosexual. The guard was speechless. Then do you remember the little prince? He was born to you too. The regent was furious. How can two men have a child? If you keep saying that, I'll chop off your head. But the next day at court, he took one look at me and held his breath. His face was serious, his ears flushed red. You don't have to be the regent. I want to be the emperor's husband. 1. After leading his troops into battle, Gu Jingheng returned without bringing back either a man or a woman. He suffered a brain injury and lost his memory. He forgot the 5 years we spent together, nor the little prince I bore him. His memories were frozen in his ambitious teenage years. Upon hearing the news, I changed into plain clothes and went to visit him at the regent's palace. Unexpectedly, he overheard him plotting a rebellion with his confidants. The throne is unstable, and the young emperor is weak. Why don't we lead our troops to besiege the imperial city and force that bastard emperor to step down? As he spoke, his eyes shone with ambition. He was completely oblivious to the looks he received from those around him. It was hard to describe. His personal guard, Qin Song, was pushed aside and spoke with difficulty. 5 years ago, didn't you capture the imperial city and insist on giving it to the current young emperor? You said it was a wedding gift. We've tried to persuade you so many times, but you've insisted on your own way, eagerly helping him ascend to the throne. Now you have a child, why are you rebelling again? Hearing this, Gu Jingheng froze. Ambition froze on his face. Have we fought once? No, who is he? Why should I give him the imperial city I conquered? And it's a wedding gift. Are you kidding? Am I the empress who's secretly in love with him? No way. I would never give up my power for a woman. Gu Jingheng studied literature at the age of 3 and martial arts at the age of 4. He's always wanted to be in charge of his own life. Ever since he learned about the corruption and incompetence of the imperial court. He's wanted to overthrow the rule and become the supreme leader himself. How could he possibly believe he'd leave his fate to someone else? You're not secretly in love with the empress. Qin Song paused, finding it increasingly difficult to speak. Gu Jingheng's expression, however, brightened considerably. It's not just because of feelings. You're openly in love with the little emperor. 2. Yes, openly in love. Before Gu Jingheng lost his memory, his feelings for me were known to everyone in the palace. The dragon bed had practically become his personal domain. Every night, he'd lie on it in a different way. She'd flirt frivolously. Your Majesty, I'm here to serve you. Please be gentle, I'm afraid. His shirt was half undone, revealing his firm, tan chest muscles. He added, if we do this, the empress won't be mad, will she? No way, no way. I stood nearby, feeling a bit speechless as Gu Jingheng played along on the dragon bed. Outside of the world, he was the powerful regent, serious and steady. But when he was alone with me, he was like a fox spirit. He was incredibly jealous and a showman. Forget the empress, I wouldn't even dare have a female mosquito in my harem. If I did, my waist would be the end of me. But now Gu Jingheng, without any memories, was all boyish. He looked like he was about to explode. Impossible. How could I possibly like that bastard emperor? I'm not a homosexual. Gu Jingheng's face darkened. The guards, fearing vengeance, immediately pulled open the bookshelf behind him. This row is all your collection. If you don't believe me, you can open it and take a look. Gu Jingheng took a deep breath. He glanced at Qin Song and gritted his teeth. Although I've lost 5 or 6 years of memory, I trust my taste. You must have collected a lot of famous calligraphy and paintings, a treasured collection. He confidently opened the drawer. First drawer, half a dim sum. Second drawer, a hairband. Third drawer, a few Sichuan peppercorns. Gu Jingheng frowned. What the hell are these? But everyone else seemed unfazed. Qin Song sighed. He had been with the regent the longest. They had known each other since childhood, and had been martial arts buddies. Gu Jingheng could already see he was panicking. 3. Don't look at them like trash. You said that back then, it's proof of your love. By the way, let me advise you to stop calling him a dog emperor. You're always the one who's willing to be a dog in front of him. Gu Jingheng immediately retorted. I don't like men, and I certainly wouldn't be a dog. Qin Song, are you just relying on our childhood friendship to deliberately spout nonsense? The regent's aura softened Qin Song's tone. But he still didn't give up trying to persuade Gu Jingheng. If you don't remember liking him, do you remember the little prince? You too had him. In response, Gu Jingheng drew his sword with a swish. His eyes narrowed slightly as he placed the sword on Qin Song's shoulder. Do you really think I won't chop you down? As soon as the sword was unsheathed, everyone fell silent. Even Qin Song surrendered obediently. All right, I won't say any more. I just hope you won't regret it when you remember. Gu Jingheng snorted coldly. Stop talking nonsense. His threat of force dispelled everyone's attempts at persuasion. They all focused on figuring out how to storm the imperial city and sacrifice my head. When the discussion got heated, they even argued. So Gu Jingheng was satisfied. What's the point of being regent? If I want to be emperor, I'll be emperor. I stood outside the door and listened to the whole thing. My hands and feet went cold. Thankfully, after being emperor for so many years, I wasn't completely unprepared. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Back then, he was the one who stepped back and put me on the throne. So I've always given in to him, even because he wanted it. I took the fertility pill and gave birth to a child for him. This time, I don't need him to give me up. I'll hold on to the throne myself, and I won't owe him anything. The thought of him constantly calling me a dog emperor makes my head hurt. Okay, keep barking if you can. Love can be foregone, but imperial power must be in my grasp. I gave the traitors a cold look at their heated discussion and turned to leave. Unexpectedly, a loud bang shattered the night's silence. Looking back, I saw the eunuch who had been following me bumping into the flower bed. He was now kneeling at my feet in fear. Bring the people outside in. Gu Jingheng's stern, cold voice echoed through the window. 4. Now that I've been exposed, I didn't intend to hide. I walked into the room leisurely. Looking around, my confidants looked embarrassed when they saw me. They knew about my relationship with Gu Jingheng. They also knew about the crazy things Gu Jingheng had done for me. Even Gu Jingheng, a rebellious, overbearing man, held immense power at such a young age. It might seem like he forced me, the emperor, to bear him a child. In reality, Gu Jingheng was insecure. He was always cautious, fearing I would abandon him. Even when jealous or angry, his excess energy was only directed in the bedroom. He nearly broke the dragon bed. And then he kept asking me in my ear. Brother, do you love me? Will you always love me? After returning from court, do you still love me? You haven't said you love me in a day. Sometimes I really think you're just attracted to my big pecs, not love me at all. His eyes shone as he asked, filled with anticipation and trepidation. Afraid of rejection, he would find fault first, waiting for me to refute him. One time, I was so exhausted and unconscious. I didn't respond in time. He sensed my hesitation, and tears welled up in his eyes, aggrieved. Don't you care about me as much as before? He was incredibly clingy, as if I controlled all his emotions. But now, the look he gave me was cold and stern. But the moment he saw my face clearly, his ears blushed. Who are you? Qin Song took a step forward, about to say something. But Gu Jingheng pushed him aside, his eyes fixed on me, his eyes bright. Are you the new strategist? Do you have a family? Do you have a crush? Can you accept a man as your significant other? Confidence. Chin Song, hey, you just wanted to kill me. You didn't even believe you liked men, so what are you doing now? But Gu Jingheng glared at him fiercely. Leave me alone. Me. 5. The tense and serious atmosphere suddenly dissipated. Gu Jingheng's question made me laugh. I'd forgotten how much he resembled the high-spirited young man I remembered. Confident, proud, his beautiful peach blossom eyes shone brightly. Just like the first time we met, his ears blushed at the sight of me. He was immature and inexperienced in love. He seemed completely different from the Regent who later flirted with me and humbly courted me. He's married, with a lovely child, I answered casually. My eyes fixed on Gu Jingheng's expression without blinking. But I saw those beautiful peach blossom eyes suddenly dim. He was filled with disappointment. Then your wife must be a very good person. You're so lucky. For some reason, Gu Jingheng felt a touch of envy as he spoke. Even his voice became hoarse. After he finished speaking, he realized what was happening and froze for a moment. I don't understand why I'm upset because my advisor has a family, even though we've only just met. Why am I so emotionally drawn to a stranger? Yes, he loves me very much. It's just that now he's always thinking about rebelling against his superiors and usurping the throne. I smiled, turning my attention away from his grotesque, unaware look. Gu Jingheng doesn't seem to be feigning amnesia as a pretext for rebellion. He's genuinely mentally damaged. I'm not sure, I'll have to wait and see. Imperial power was hard-earned, and I've sacrificed my entire being. I can't make a decision lightly if anything threatens it. So I walked straight towards the table. Gu Jingheng's confidant saw me approaching and tacitly parted ways, revealing a map spread out on the table. The map was incredibly detailed, even showing the secret passages within the imperial city. I looked up at Gu Jingheng again and smiled. Are you afraid the so-called dog emperor you're talking about might escape, and are planning to ambush him in the secret passage? 6. Gu Jingheng forced himself to perk up when he got to business. He returned to the map and explained his plan. Meanwhile, I sat down, my chin propped up, listening intently, my eyes growing darker. Gu Jingheng, however, was oblivious to the unusual silence around us. Seeing my interest, he spoke with a beaming radiance. From time to time, he snorted with disdain. All these Chus are tyrants. The old ones are greedy and lustful, the young ones are domineering and tyrannical. None of them are good. Someone's been plotting rebellion for a long time. I replied with a faint "oh." Gu Jingheng, assuming I was approving of him, nodded with satisfaction. He paid no attention to his trusted associates. Especially Chin Song, who was giving him signals, his fingers flying, practically forming hand seals. Look here, there are several paths leading to the military camp through the secret passage. Do you know what they're for? I asked cooperatively. What for? Gu Jingheng continued. Those craftsmen left them there on purpose, specifically to report to the Gu family's army. Compared to those sanctimonious royal family members, the people actually trust my Gu family more. Chin Song. No, the strategist's identity hasn't even been confirmed, and he's just spreading his wings like a peacock. The Regent dares to say anything in front of the young emperor. Does he really believe it? I nodded again. My eyes looked at Gu Jingheng with a complicated expression. He's a young talent, his achievements surpass his masters. And he's extremely popular. Can you blame me for being wary? If he weren't one of our own, what emperor could sleep peacefully with such a minister? But he told me all this back in those 5 years. When the chaos in the imperial city began. To ensure my safety, Gu Jingheng sneaked me out of the palace through a secret passage at night. Because he knew I was a prince in the cold palace. If a fight broke out, no one except him would care if I lived or died. I was half asleep, and when I opened my eyes, I saw him, clad in military armor, ready for battle. His expression was more serious than ever. Seeing I was awake, he leaned over and placed a kiss on my forehead. "Brother, if I die in this battle, you..." His voice was hoarse, as if 1,000 words were condensed into a single sentence. "You must not forget me." 7. Thinking of Gu Jingheng's passionate confession, I was a little dazed. He was really good to me. Even though he was 3 years younger than me, he took care of me in every way. Even though he had conquered the imperial city, he made me emperor. He was afraid I would become anxious and insecure. He was afraid that someone would use my status as a former prince to mock and belittle me. So he was willing to be my subordinate, to assist me. But from the beginning, I didn't like men at all. I only used him. But ever since Gu Jingheng saw me at the palace banquet, he'd been finding excuses to come to me. He swarmed around me like a favorite concubine's beautiful lion dog. He enthusiastically and proactively called me brother, sounding sweet and obedient. He wasn't at all as arrogant and presumptuous as the rumors spread. I thought it was just a rumor. Until I caught him beating the other princes. Just because they called me a bastard who couldn't stand up to public scrutiny. But Gu Jingheng was too reckless. Even with the Gu family's immense power, beating the princes openly wouldn't be justified. After all, the emperor needs to save face. It was better to strike secretly. That way, even if everyone knew who did it, they would be wary of the Gu family's military power and try to smooth things over. And now, Gu Jingheng was being dragged before the emperor by the old general and made to kneel. I silently cursed him, calling him a fool. Not wanting to continue watching him suffer punishment, I was about to turn back, only to see him return unharmed. That was the first time I realized the importance of power. It was also the first time I didn't refuse Gu Jingheng's approach. He was completely oblivious, only delighted by my change of heart. He pulled a whip from his bosom and handed it to me like a treasure. "Brother, don't be afraid of them. Next time anyone irritates you, whip them hard with this whip. Then I'll beat anyone who bears a whip mark for you. No matter who it is, I'll take the blame for it." The boy's eyes were clear and bright. His expression was so serious, as if he were swearing an oath. And he truly kept his word. No matter who it was, no matter the reason, anyone who bore a whip mark from me, Gu Jingheng would retaliate. Thinking back at this, I suddenly realized. Gu Jingheng seems to have spoiled my temper. 8. I subconsciously glanced at Gu Jingheng, who was discussing his plan with a bright look in his eyes. Noticing my gaze, he paused. "Military advisor, do you think my idea is feasible?" Recalling the past, my gaze warmed slightly. I patiently asked, "What?" "Then we'll chop off the little emperor's head and hang it on the city wall. Announce to the whole world that the Chu royal family is over. Then we can all..." His expression was filled with anticipation and seriousness. I stood up immediately after hearing this. He curled his lips in a cold sneer. "Your Highness, the Regent, you have a deep grudge against the royal family." Gu Jingheng was stunned. "The world has long despised them. What's wrong with me wanting to overthrow them?" I nodded without saying anything. In Gu Jingheng's base, what else could I say? There was no point in saying more, so he stood up and said goodbye. Gu Jingheng tried to persuade him to stay. "If you think this method is too cruel, we can also switch to beheading. When the time comes. Let's go to the execution ground and let the people see it." Okay. I was furious. I glared at Gu Jingheng fiercely and left with a wave of my sleeve. Gu Jingheng wanted to say something more, but his confidants rushed over and grabbed him, covering his mouth. Qin Song followed my steps. "Your Majesty, the Regent has only just woken up, and his mind is still unclear. His memories are stuck in the past 6 or 7 years." I kept walking. "Once he understands everything, he'll definitely change his mind." I took a deep breath and stopped. I came here in plain clothes today. Why didn't you tell him who I am? If you want to kill me, this is your best chance. Qin Song's expression was indescribable. The regent simply forgot, not that he no longer loves me. If I really kill him today, I'm afraid he'll remember and commit suicide. Besides, he gave the order long ago. If you disagree, I'll obey you first. Your Majesty, he's sincere to you. I listened silently, suppressing the resentment I felt. Tell him I'll be waiting for him in the palace tomorrow. Feel free to use any tricks you have. Even though I believed in his love, I had to prepare for the worst. 9. The next day, I sat in my high seat, ready to fight. Outside the palace stood the solemn royal guards, and in the shadows lay hidden assassins. But now, halfway through the morning court session, the regent still hadn't appeared. I twirled the jade ring in my hand, curling my lips in a cold smile. Gu Jingheng, is he trying to intimidate me? No matter. I'm fully prepared to rip him off. Gu Jingheng only appeared when the sun was high in the sky and the court session was drawing to a close. I have something to report. His voice was arrogant, just like his entire demeanor. He strode with his head held high, sizing up the courtiers with disdain. A bunch of sycophantic lackeys. His scolding left everyone baffled. As for dogs, who in the entire court would be as willing to serve the young emperor as Gu Jingheng? They're always fighting for it, who dares to challenge him for that title? And now he's using it to insult everyone. However, the arrogant Gu Jingheng ignored the others' strange looks. He shifted his gaze upwards, taking in my face clearly. And then he froze. The tips of his ears gradually turned red, and even his breathing became shallower. Suddenly, I believed what Qin Song had said 1,000 times. You're not just the regent, you're also the young prince's father. Back then, Gu Jingheng refused to believe it. Now, Gu Jingheng wished it were true. He took off his official hat and said solemnly, "If you don't grant me the title, I'll give up my position as regent." I raised an eyebrow. "What do you want?" Then I heard Gu Jingheng's resounding voice. "I want to be the emperor's husband." 10. I sat at the head of the table, my expression indescribable. Such a fuss, deliberately late for the morning court, and wearing a 5-clawed golden dragon robe. He was so arrogant and conceited, his face etched with the words, "I'm going to rebel." So he's here to demand a title. Everyone in the court had a different expression, but they didn't dare laugh. I glanced puzzled at Qin Song, who had been following Gu Jingheng around. I don't know why, but after just one night apart, he looked much more haggard, with blisters forming at the corners of his mouth. I was glaring at Gu Jingheng with a mixture of anger and amusement. I frowned at Gu Jingheng, whose eyes were bright and his ears were red after he finished speaking. "We can discuss these personal matters later. If there's nothing else, let's adjourn this morning court." I thought he would be as obedient as before and discuss things with me. But young people are inherently impatient. He took my words as a rejection. He suddenly lifted his robe and sat on the ground. He didn't care at all about his image as a regent holding military power. He didn't even consider the occasion, not even considering that his child was already 3 years old. "No," Qin Song said it all. "I've been with you since I was 18, but you've never given me a legitimate marriage. You're always hanging me up, treating me like a dog. I've been in your bed for 6 years. 6 years? How many 6 years does a man get? And you won't give me a legitimate marriage. Chu Yunji, you abandoned your husband and children. If you don't give me a legitimate marriage, I'll stay." Gu Jingheng's loud voice made my head hurt. I pinched the bridge of my nose and waved the embarrassed ministers away. When everyone left, leaving only Gu Jingheng and me, I stepped down from the platform and slowly walked towards him. As I leaned over and pinched his chin, my hair fell and brushed against his face. Gu Jingheng froze, unconsciously rubbing the palm of my hand. Realizing what he had done, Gu Jingheng's face flushed. His long eyelashes fluttered, his gaze wandering, not wanting to meet mine. But he still insisted. This trick won't work on me. Anyway, you must give me this title today. If you don't, I'll stay in the palace. Anyway, Qin Song and the others said I used to live here. I want to move back. 11. I stared at him intently. He asked seriously. Didn't you call me the Dog Emperor? What? Now you just want the title and won't rebel. Gu Jingheng's face flushed, his expression becoming agitated. I misremembered the time. Besides, what Qin Song said was too outrageous. How could I believe it? I'd just think he was bribed by you. I raised an eyebrow. So you believe it now? But he lowered his brows and murmured shyly. I used to be a straight man. You have to be responsible for me. Besides, whoever becomes emperor will be our son from now on. How could I possibly rebel? When he said the word son, his ears flushed and he stumbled. He was clearly not used to it yet. If his own son were there, he'd be heartbroken. But then I thought of the 3-year-old prince's serious expression, and I found it funny. Whenever the emperor is around, Daddy always ignores me. I'm used to it. He frowned and sighed. I don't know what this little ball of shit worries about every day. Tell me, will you give me a title? Gu Jingheng saw that I not only didn't respond but was even distracted. His eyes were red with grievance. I came to my senses and looked at him. The handsome man was looking at me with sparkling, expectant eyes. His eyelashes seemed stained with moisture. As if a refusal would make him burst into tears. But for the first time, when he was acting like a spoiled child, I didn't comfort him. Instead, I asked him seriously. The harem is not allowed to interfere in government affairs. If you want to be the emperor's husband, you must relinquish your military power. Gu Jingheng listened, staring at me in amazement. For a long time, he didn't answer. I sighed. As expected. No matter what man, once they get power, they won't let it go. Even Gu Jingheng is no exception. Actually, we had discussed this topic before he lost his memory. That was his last tender moment with me before leaving for the war. As he held me in his arms, he suddenly said, "Brother, when I come back, I'll be your husband, okay?" I was so exhausted from the battle that I didn't want to open my eyes. I let him massage my fingers. Sure. The people around me were trembling with excitement. Their voices were filled with surprise. Really? You're willing to acknowledge me? Actually, I've been feeling uneasy. Even though we're married, those old, sour-looking scholars in the court are always trying to fill your harem. It really pissed me off. A few years ago, they were talking about having an heir, and that was fine. We already had one, but what do they mean now? If I wasn't afraid of you getting slammed in history books, I'd have them all chopped off. 12. Listening to his complaints, I opened my eyes. If you really want to be the emperor's husband, you must relinquish military power. At that time, he was silent for a long time. But later, I overheard his conversation with his guards. Your Highness, are you really going to relinquish military power? Have you forgotten the remnants of the Chu state? Sensing Gu Jingheng's sharp gaze, the guard changed his address. You killed all the other members of the Chu royal family. Doesn't he bear a grudge? Besides, I heard he doesn't like men and only wants to use you. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone fell silent. Gu Jingheng's aura grew even darker, his eyes cold as he looked at the speaker. Was like looking at a dead person. Haven't you noticed? The young emperor has been constantly revitalizing the court these past 2 years. None of the newcomers he's promoted are from our faction. Gu Jingheng narrowed his eyes and spoke coldly. Oh? I'm a royalist. What faction are you from? The man was stunned and Qin Song tried to save the situation. What nonsense are you talking about? If the emperor didn't love your highness, how could he have given birth to his child? That child was born to the emperor himself. How could he have consented to this except out of true love? The moment these words were spoken, the atmosphere warmed up considerably. Even Gu Jingheng's frown softened, and the corners of his lips curled slightly. But the man, feeling that Qin Song was in the way, pushed him away, continuing his reckless behavior. If you insist on going your own way and really handing it over, he'll probably settle accounts with us next. But Gu Jingheng still ignored him. He sneered. I don't need people like you around me. He waved his hand, and someone pulled the man away. As the crown prince of the Gu family, a child of wealth and privilege, raised in ease and comfort, he now holds the omnipotent power of the court. Besides being scolded by me, where else has Gu Jingheng ever been scolded like this? Even the old emperor, upon seeing him make a mistake, would be vague and never dare to speak harshly. Today he listened to so many words before taking action. Or perhaps it was because military power was involved, a matter of great importance. Who knew that person would be so foolish as to insist on saying I didn't love him? 13. Gu Jingheng is a very proud man. It's just that he has a bit of an inferiority complex when it comes to relationships. Before leaving for the battle, he repeatedly reassured me in bed. Brother, you love me, right? Why are you ignoring me? Are you being cold? Are my big pecs no longer attractive? Are you attracted to the new scholar who won the imperial examination? Is he as tall as me? As handsome as me? As long legs as me? Why aren't you talking? Don't you love me anymore? Tears streamed down his face and dripped onto mine, waking me up. It was already late at night. He nuzzled into the crook of my neck, and I couldn't tell if it was tears or sweat. If you could torment me less, I'd love you more. I felt the heat and pushed him away. I didn't notice that Gu Jingheng wasn't just being coquettish this time. He was genuinely afraid I'd fall in love with someone else. And military power was the only thing he had that held me captive. But he didn't know that the very thing that made him feel secure was also what put me in the most danger. As emperor without military power, what's the difference between him and a puppet? Being forever controlled by others is not the throne I desire. So, I once again confronted him, asking about my official title. I simply stared at him silently, waiting for his answer. But in that silence, my heart slowly sank to the bottom. I didn't want to delve into the reasons. Perhaps maintaining the delicate status quo was just fine. We loved each other, but we were wary of each other. As he said, I couldn't betray my own son. I calmly lowered my hand from his chin, and tried to stand up. But he suddenly grabbed me by the waist, and I fell into his arms. Gu Jingheng's eyes were blazing. He lowered his gaze, staring intently at my lips. Brother, are you trying to seduce me? No, I only accept the title. I was startled by his question, realizing I'd subconsciously bit my lip in thought and recollection. And yet, we'd been together for so long, we even had a child. Why would I be afraid of this scene? Luckily, there were no outsiders in the hall, so I leaned in closer. So close I could smell his breath, a faint fragrance lingering around me. The atmosphere was thick with air. Is it really useless? Gu Jingheng remained silent, the blush that had faded from his face creeping back up to his ears. His long eyelashes trembled as he suddenly leaned in. Just as I was about to kiss me, a soft, childish voice rang out from outside the hall. Daddy, did you bring me anything fun? 14. I immediately pushed Gu Jingheng away. Instinctively, I wiped my mouth and looked at the little girl at the door. He politely dismissed the palace maids, and after they had left, he trotted over. Father, what were you doing just now? The little girl looked at Gu Jingheng and me curiously. He pointed a finger. Daddy, are you crying again? Shame on you. The soft pink and tender little boy looked like a miniature version of Gu Jingheng. From his features to his demeanor, He'd been a domineering character since childhood. He stood directly between Gu Jingheng and me. Daddy doesn't look good when he cries. Be careful or father won't want you anymore. The 3-year-old boy smiled cheerfully, but I frowned. Gu Jingheng was inherently sensitive and insecure in relationships. He must have exploded when he heard his own son say that. I wonder who deliberately taught him that. I thought Gu Jingheng wouldn't care, just give him a few pats on the butt. Because in the past, when he encountered similar situations, he would always keep it to himself. Or he would act like a spoiled child in bed, pretending to be weak and pathetic. He coaxed me to change positions. Unexpectedly, his face suddenly turned stern, and he frowned at the little prince. This is the little prince I gave birth to. How come he doesn't look like you at all? He's not cute. Can I give you a smaller version of you, please? Gu Jingheng's eyes were moist, and he looked at me expectantly. I looked left and right, wondering if father and son were hurting each other. Sure enough, the little prince immediately started to cry. Gu Jingheng pinched his lips and said, "Don't cry. I don't want to hear it." I was stunned for a moment, while the little prince silently cried out in grievance. I felt sorry for him for a moment, and wanted to speak up for him. But then I saw Gu Jingheng's glare. As if to say, "No favoritism. I'm still my baby too." 15. Gu Jingheng continued to play with the little prince in the palace. We played until the evening, when the child fell asleep. He blushed and sauntered over to me. "Where am I staying tonight?" I glared at him, irritated at how he dared ask. Gu Jingheng could just tease the child, but why did he keep making him cry? So I snapped back. "Hold on to my hand." I'd thought he'd behave himself. But I didn't know what was going on in his head. His face flushed all the way to his neck. He raised his hands, then lowered them again. Just as I was beginning to wonder, I saw him, as if determined, place his hands on his waistband, about to untie it. Suddenly, a thought struck me. My face flushed a bit. Not here. So this slutty man had so many ideas even when he was young. No wonder he was so fussy after marriage. After being together for so long, he became even more shameless, and his tricks became more and more elaborate. I closed my eyes, trying to calm my embarrassment. Gu Jingheng is already 3 years younger than me, and with 6 years of memory lost, his mind is at least 9 years younger than mine. Not to mention, he's been pampered since childhood, never having suffered, and is a bit immature. I should have tolerated him. So, when I opened my eyes again, I saw a bewildered Gu Jingheng. I knew he was acting this way because he cared about me. I sighed and took his hand. Since he'd forgotten everything, it would be fun to train him again. I took him to the bathhouse. Unlike the coquettish Gu Jingheng of his adulthood. Now, whatever he did, his reactions were childish. Those beautiful eyes looked at me helplessly as I untied his clothes, piece by piece. Slowly, they fell to the edge of the bathtub. Gu Jingheng's breath grew heavier, and his gaze fixed on my face again. As his clothes shrank, his excitement grew. Until he was completely naked. He reached out to unbutton mine. But I dodged. "It's so hot, how can you not shower?" "I've already showered, take your time." As I said that, I was about to leave the tub. I saw Gu Jingheng's undisguised look of disappointment. I smiled, placed a kiss on his lips, and turned to leave. I was half asleep when I suddenly felt someone crawl onto the bed. I was startled awake. "Who? So bold. Aren't you afraid of being chopped into pieces by Gu Jingheng?" But sensing that familiar scent, my mood subconsciously calmed. I subconsciously shifted back, finding a familiar position in his arms, and continued to sleep. I didn't notice the stiffening of the person behind me. I got up and took several cold showers. 16. The next morning, I was still not fully awake. Suddenly, I felt something hard resting on my head. I reached out and picked it up, and it turned out to be a palm-sized tiger talisman. The cold metallic gleam shone in the morning light. Gu Jingheng's clear voice echoed in my ears. You want military power? How could I be so stingy before I lost my memory? I wouldn't give it to you. Then he doesn't love you as much as I do. For some reason, after losing his memory, he loves to criticize others. He calls Qin Sung his own son, and now he even mentions his former self. And he smiled and put his arm around my waist. Don't like him, like me. I looked at him quietly. Are you willing to give it to me? Sincerely. Gu Jingheng nodded, his eyes shining. As long as you want it, as long as I have it, I'll give it to you with all my heart. Looking at his earnest expression, I felt a mixture of emotions. Was it really appropriate for me to just accept such sincere affection? I don't do bondage. The one before was just too self-conscious. What do I have to be self-conscious about? I'm young, strong, and have big pecs. Just open your eyes and look at me, and I won't believe you won't be tempted. But you'd better not change your mind, or I'm afraid I'll go crazy and want to kill someone. Gu Jingheng gritted his teeth. After glancing at me, he lowered his head shyly. I'm not usually this violent. I hummed but didn't pay any attention. I understand the way little boys like to act in front of the people they like. After all, I've known Gu Jingheng from his youth to adulthood. Not only was he violent and jealous, but he was also quite vulgar and violent. Now that we've reached an agreement, let's write the imperial edict. The imperial edict that will make me the emperor's husband. He looked at me with sparkling eyes. I stared back, dazed. Chu Yunji, you won't go back on your word, will you? We agreed to give our father and son a legitimate status. Gu Jingheng once again feigned the air of someone abandoned by a scumbag, looking at me with a grieved expression. Daddy, I already have a legitimate status, it's you who doesn't. Early in the morning, the little boy came to perform his morning prayers again. Because of the palace attendants, he acted solemn. His small stature gave Gu Jingheng a hint of the sour, scholarly air of an old man. He couldn't help but pinch his son's cheek. Little brat, all you do is bully your father all day long. But he didn't know that in the past, he was just looking for excuses to be alone with me. He would threaten little Tuanzi. You're always pestering your father, never giving him a chance, right? Fine. Then don't blame me for not loving you anymore if he, and I have another child. Or he would bribe. I've brought back a lot of fun things from Anqing this time. So if you leave your father to me for a few days, I'll give you everything. Or he would flat out lie. The teacher said he's been regressing lately and needs to stay in the study today. After so many times, little Tuanzi simply stopped believing him. She was even a little upset that Gu Jingheng was trying to steal my hand from her. But at that moment, Gu Jingheng had no time to pay attention to him. He happily ran to grind the ink. Finally, he brought the imperial edict and handed the imperial brush to me. Not minding that I was still in my pajamas, he looked at me with eager anticipation, silently urging me on. Until I finished, before the ink had even dried, he picked it up and blew on it over and over again, finally stuffing it into his arms. He seemed to treasure it even more than when he held the tiger talisman. 17. I had thought Gu Jingheng would never regain his memory. I also thought he was quite good this way. After all, Gu Jingheng, arguing with the imperial edict against the scholars, was still vivid in my mind. Oppose my becoming the emperor's husband. I already have children. What good will your opposition do? Do you understand what a happy family is? What business do our family matters have on you? Death penalty. I'm not afraid of death. If you have the guts, die for me. There's a vacant position. Promote my people. He was arrogant, determined to infuriate people to death. He even drew his sword and threw it to the ground, enjoying the show. Come on, die for me. You're really rebelling against the Tian gang. Who gave you the guts to threaten me? Don't you know I'm protecting the emperor? But now, Gu Jingheng seemed to have remembered everything. He was back to being the flirty regent. Brother, you said you liked another me more. Is that true? Are you falling for someone else? I was speechless. Isn't that you too? It's different. Gu Jingheng's handsome face was dejected, and he looked like he was about to cry again. He's always trying to sow discord and use someone else's talents to gain favor. I've wanted to give you the tiger talisman for a long time, but it was a bit troublesome to carry it around, so I figured I'd give it to you after the war. Who knew you'd lose your memory? Woohoo, you're not allowed to like him. Gu Jingheng snuggled into my neck again, whining and acting like a spoiled child. For my sake, I hurried to soothe him. But after coaxing him out of me, in the middle of the night, Gu Jingheng changed his ways again. Brother, you promised to only like him, so what should I do? I was stunned. Only then did I understand what Gu Jingheng meant by that other me. He had an extra personality. One was cat-like, the other dog-like. However, they both loved me. Little dumpling extra. I was the only prince of the Chu royal family. But I wasn't happy. My father was a man, and my dad was also a man. He was always too busy to pay attention to me, and he'd always hold his back and complain about it. Whenever this happened, Dad would be very obedient. I saw this and followed suit. I ran to Dad and imitated him, saying my back hurt. While doing so, I secretly watched Dad's reaction. His face instantly darkened, and my butt was bruised. Later, when I was older, I understood why I had two fathers. According to the Grand Tutor, that would be disobeying our ancestors. He told me not to follow his example. I looked at my father, then at the Grand Tutor's grandson. So handsome, so fragrant. The Grand Tutor was right. I couldn't disobey our ancestors, and my ancestors were the rebellious Gu and Chu families.